separating the ibara into different sections. The first section that we're going to discuss is from At-Taqdeem at the bottom of page 25 up to where he states Zaydun Qama on page 26. So if you place brackets on both ends, at this point he was discussing, what he was discussing is Musnad Ilaiyhi being placed before, in the beginning of the sentence, in Nakirah form, and what benefit this gives. And what he mentioned was that Abdul Qadir al-Jurjani rahimullah said that this gives fa'idah to takhsis. It gives the benefit of making that Musnad Ilaiyhi specific. After mentioning that, he said, وَوَافَقَهُ السَّكَاكِيُّ, that Al-Imam al-Sakaki rahimullah, the author of Miftah al-Ulum, agreed with him on that. إِلَّا أَنَّهُ قَالَ, except he said, from this point he's mentioning the sharait of Al-Imam al-Sakaki, the conditions for Nakirah noun to give benefit of takhsis when it's placed in the beginning. When the Musnad Ilaiyhi, more specifically Musnad Ilaiyhi, like in Zaydun Qa'imun, Zaydun is the Musnad Ilaiyhi. But if we said Rajulun Qa'imun, Rajulun now is Nakirah. So Nakirah being placed at the beginning, how does it give fa'idah to takhsis? This is what he's discussing. And Sakaki had his conditions. So from At-Taqdeem all the way up to Zaydun Qa'imun, he's discussing this. He states, أنه قال, he said, meaning Sakaki said, At-Taqdeem yufidu al-ikhtisas, that placing At-Taqdeem, meaning Taqdeem Musnad Ilaiyhi, while it's Munakkar, Nakira. When he states At-Taqdeem, he means what? Placing the Musnad Ilaiyhi while it's in the state of Nakira. Yufidul ikhtisas, gives the benefit of ikhtisas, meaning it becomes very specific. In jaza taqdiru kawni fil asli muakharan. This is the first shart from this point when he says in jaza taqdiru kawni fil asli muakharan, that if it's possible, if it's permissible, taqdiru kawnihi, that the interpretation of the Musnad Ilaiyhi, taqdir would mean ta'wil, meaning ta'wilu kawni al-Musnad Ilaiyhi, that the interpretation of the Musnad Ilaiyhi fil asli, in its original placement, is what? Mu'akharan. What this means basically is if you do place the Nakirah noun first, it's possible for you to conceive it being last as well. If that's not possible, you can't place it first. If you do place it first, you won't give fa'idatul ikhtisas. Is that sentence clear?
Then it has to be Musnad as well, the Nakirah, which you do Taqdeem of.
No, it doesn't become Musnad by place. It stays Musnad Ilaiyhi.
It can be Mu'akhar, sorry.
It can be Mu'akhar. It can be conceived as meaning you can picture it, you can make a tasweer of it being Mu'akhar.
And then when you do Taqdeem of it, it gives fa'idah of...
No, this is one shart. Then when he states, ala anna, what does he mean by this? He states, ala annahu fa'ilun ma'nan faqat. When you do conceive of it being, when you can conceive it being mu'akhar, it would be fa'il ma'nan. What do we mean by fa'il ma'nan? Fa'il ma'nan means either it will be ta'qeed for fa'il lafzi. It would be what? Fa'il lafzi. For fa'il lafzi is the real fa'il. Like ana qumtu. If you say qumtu ana, if you say qumtu ana would become ta'qeed for the two damir marfu muttasil. Ta'qeed. Or you can conceive it being badal. Yeah, so if you badal or mubdal minu or ta'qeed, if this is possible, that this is referred to as fa'il ma'nan, that fa'il in meaning. Up to there, he's finished first shart.
You know the kumtu, the mir there, will that be the fa'il ma'nan, and ana will be fa'il lafzi?
No, the two damir would be fa'il haqiqatan. Yes. And if you perceive the ana to be at the end, then that will be fa'il ma'nan. Yes? When he states وَقُدِّرَ, from here he's telling us the second shart. What it means by قدر, simply put, is that once you can conceive it being hidden, it's been hidden as well. وقدر, yeah, it's been actually that in its original placement, كان في الأصل مؤخرا, meaning in its original placement it was at the end, but it was made to be at the front. Okay, so أنا قمت was originally قمت أنا, then أنا was placed at the front and it became أنا قمت.
تقديم محق تأخير.
Pardon?
تقديم محق تأخير.
تقديم
محقه تأخير. So it حق of it was تأخير.
No, he's not saying his حق is تأخير. He's saying it was مؤخر, but then he was placed مقدم. تقديم ما حقه تأخير would mean that it's better to make it مؤخر. He's not saying that. So what is that clear? What he means by قدر? That's second shart. So then he states وإلا, meaning إلا مركبية. If you cannot conceive it of it being last, and it has to be فاعل معنى, which is بدل or تأكيد. And the second shart, which was قدر, that it was originally مؤخر and then it was placed first. He goes وإلا فلا يفيد إلا تقوي الحكم, meaning if one of these two sharait are not fulfilled, it does not give any benefit except of taqwiyatul hukm, which is attributing the musnad to the Musnad Ilaiyhi. The attribution of the musnad to the Musnad Ilaiyhi just it reinforces that. So, now when he states سواء جاز كما مر ولم يقدر, whether it is permissible كما مر ولم يقدر, كما مر meaning like in أنا قمت. In أنا قمت, it is permissible for you to conceive قمت أنا ولم يقدر, but if you say قمت أنا was not the original form, then it's not fulfilled. That's what he means by سواء جاز كما مر ولم يقدر. أو لم يجوز. Well, what he means by that, what he means by لم يجوز, is that you could not conceive it being مؤخر. Make sure you write your notes properly, because this has a discussion. If you attempt to read it without notes, you won't understand it. Okay, here now, he gives an example of this where it's impermissible, which is Zaydun Qama. When he states Nahwu Zaydun Qama, that here the mubtada is ism zahir, Zaydun Qama. So here now, the mubtada and the khabar are what we will call stationary. You won't, if you say qama Zaydun, it becomes jumla fa'liya khabariya. But when you say Zaydun qama, you can't conceive Zaydun being mu'akhar, and you can't, the Zaydun is a mubtada, is not nakirah. So it doesn't fulfill the conditions. Is that clear now? Next section is from wastathna up to thumma qala. So make brackets between wastathna, thumma qala. When he states wastathna al-munakkara, he means that Sakaki made an exception to this rule. So when he states wastathna al-munakkara, he made an exception of a nakira, which from the two conditions, ani shartain you'd say. So the meaning would be istathna al-munakkara ani shartain. Like what? Rajulun ja'ani. If you say rajulun ja'ani, in this example, rajulun ja'ani, the two conditions are not met in rajulun ja'ani. Because if you say ja'ani rajulun, it makes rajulun the fa'il, not fa'il ma'nan. Yes? If you say ja'ani rajulun, it makes it fa'il hakiki, not fa'il ma'nan. And you can't imagine it to be ja'ani rajulun as well. So the fa'il ma'nan shart is not met. And ana qumtu, the quddira shart is not met. These two sharait are not met. So what do you do in such a case? He states it then becomes badal and mubdal minhu. So that's why he meant by saying وَاسْتَثْنَى الْمُنَكَّرَ بِجَعْلِهِ مِنْ بَابِ وَأَسَرُّ النَّجْوَى الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا. That he made the exception of that nakira, meaning that nakira which does not fulfill the conditions, like rajulun ja'ani, min babi wa asarru najwa alladhina zalamu. This verse now has an example of where the word that comes after an-najwa alladhina zalamu is badal of the waw, damir fa'il and asarru, wa asarru najwa alladhina zalamu. So asarru, they done something in private. Who? The group that wrong themselves, an-najwa. This najwa is the badal of the waw damir. So he's saying any noun, any musnad ilayhi which doesn't fulfill those two conditions, fa'il ma'nan or taqdeer, fa'il ma'nan or taqdeer, it falls under this category of badal. Ay ala al-qawli bil-ibdali min al-damir. That's why he states, meaning ibdal, meaning badal and mubdal minhu, min al-damir, meaning the grammarians who said an-najwa alladhina zalamu is badal of the mubdal minhu. Those musnad ilayhis which are nakira and are muqaddam fall into this category. Why would this have been done? He states لِأَلَّا يَنْتَفِيَ التَّخْصِيص. So takhsis is not done away with. What does he mean by this? By making a nakira noun in the beginning. The only reason you place a nakira noun in the beginning is takhsis. So the fact that the nakira noun is found in the beginning and yet doesn't fulfill Sakaki's two conditions, he has to find another reason, which is takhsis with badal. Takhsis with badal. So in the example, rajulun ja'ani, you'll make rajulun mubdal minhu, and then ja'ani the fa'il, you'll make it what? The mubdal, the badal, and rajulun will be mubdal minhu. Why does he state this? He states إِذْ لَا سَبَبَ لَهُ, meaning there's no reason for it, meaning for the taqdeem of taqdeemun nakira, siwahu, except takhsis. Except what? بِخِلَافِ الْمُعَرَّفِ, as opposed to mu'arraf. Now mu'arraf you can place at the beginning. Why can you place mu'arraf in the beginning? Meaning you can make a mubtada, but you can't make a nakira mubtada. So that's what he means by that statement. Is that clear now? Yeah. Then from here now, summa qala, from here up to bitankirihi at the bottom, second line to the bottom. Make two brackets between those. Summa qala, meaning then who? Sakaki rahimahullah said, وَالشَّرْطُهُ, meaning the shart of what? The shart of making munakkar maqsoos, meaning specific, by doing taqdeem of the musnad ilayhi. Its shart is what? أَنْ لَا يَمْنَعَ مِنَ التَّخْصِيصِ مَانِعٌ, that there is, from takhsis there's no prevention. There's nothing that prevents that. كَقَوْلِكَ, like your statement, رَجُلٌ جَاءَنِي. When you say رَجُلٌ جَاءَنِي, this example we just covered, عَلَى مَا مَرَّ, this is, there's no mani here from takhsis in this example. Yes? So if there's a mani, he says it's not permissible. دُونَ قَوْلِهِمْ شَرٌّ أَحَرَّ ذَا نَابٍ, as opposed to their statement, شَرٌّ أَحَرَّ ذَا نَابٍ. In this statement, sharrun evil made the possessor of fangs growl. Aharra dha nabin. In this example, he claims there's a mani', that nothing else makes a possessor of fangs growl in the first place. The only thing that makes it growl is what? Is evil. So there's no fa'idah to takhsis by placing sharrun in the beginning, in the first place. أما على التقدير الأول, as for the first taqdeer, meaning possibility, which is takhsisul jins, someone may come along and say sharrun has been placed at the beginning to say that khair, goodness, wasn't the thing that made the animal growl, it was shar that made it growl. This is takhsisul jins. But this is impossible, as Sakaki states. Why? فَالِامْتِنَاعِ, because of the impossibility, and يُرَادَ الْمُهِرُّ شَرٌّ لَا خَيْرٌ, because it's impossible for the intended meaning to be that thing which made the animal growl is evil and not khair. This meaning, no one says this. They will understand that the animal only growls simply because of evil. So you can't do takhsisul jins. Jins meaning if you get two species, two different groups, and you try specifying one of the two. So he's saying that cannot be, that's not a possibility. وَأَمَّا عَلَى الثَّانِ, as for the second possibility, meaning takhsisul fard, meaning someone may come along. In the example, if you say rajulun ja'ani, someone says there's takhsisul fard, meaning imra'atun ja'ani is negated. Takhsisul fard. This is also impossible for sharrun aharra dha nabin. Why? فَلِنَبُوِّهِ عَنْ مَضَانِ اسْتِعْمَالِهِ, because it's لِنَبُوِّهِ, nabu is what? From naba yanbu, meaning being far-fetched. It's being far-fetched and مَضَانِ اسْتِعْمَالِهِ, in the way it's used. It's not used this. Madhan is plural, madhinnatun, meaning the method of usage is not like this. You don't use this word like this. Is that clear? Now, in reply to those people, those scholars who said sharrun aharra dha nabin does have takhsis, he states وَإِذَا قَدْ صَرَّحَ الْأَئِمَّةُ, that the scholars إِذَا zarf, meaning is muta'alliq to a hidden shart here. Is because, meaning someone may ask the question, what was the reason for those scholars to state why was the takhsis done? He states وَإِذْ قَدْ صَرَّحَ الْأَئِمَّةُ بِتَخْصِيصِهِ, that the scholars were very explicit in mentioning its specification, بِتَخْصِيصِهِ حَيْثُ تَأَوَّلُوهُ, that they interpreted this, meaning they interpreted this jumla with the following sentence: مَا أَهَرَّ ذَا نَابٍ إِلَّا شَرٌّ, nothing made the possessor of fangs growl except evil. So when he states فَالْوَجْهُ, here what he means by al-wajh is wajhul jam'i bayna al-qawlayn. How do you gather between the method of gathering between the two statements? One group of scholars said there's takhsis, and another group of scholars like Sakaki said there's mani' min al-takhsis present. He states the reason, so this now is the reasoning. تَفْزِيعُ شَأْنِ الشَّرِّ is to make the essence or the reality of evil seem frightening. Tafzi'. Or tafzi' would mean what? Frightening, or to show it that the dreadful or terrible. That tafzi'u sha'ni sharri bitankirihi, by making it nakirah. So the tankir of a word is done sometimes for ta'zeem, to venerate it, sometimes it's done for tahwil, to frighten people. So the reason, the meaning would be then sharrun azimun aharra dha nabin, la sharrun haqirun, not something minute, not an evil which was minute. So up to there, that's Sakaki's statement finished. Then he states So you can place a note, Intaha Kalam Sakaki. He states, Muhammad bin Abd al-Rahman al-Qazweeni rahimahullah states, وَفِيهِ نَظَرٌ, meaning that what Sakaki said, there's something to be said regarding this. Regarding al-fa'il al-lafzi and al-ma'nawi. What do we mean by ma'nawi? Ta'qeed and badal. Ta'qeed and badal. So fa'il lafzi, an actual fa'il, actual subject. Or fa'il ma'nawi, which has ta'qeed and badal. These two, sawa'un fi imtina'i taqdeemi. These two are equal in the fact that they are prohibited from being placed before. Fi imtina'i taqdeemi. Ma baqiya ala halihima. Meaning, what does he mean by ma baqiya ala halihima? As long as they remain in this state. What he means by they stay in the state is that the fa'il remains as fa'il and the tabi remains as tabi. As long as they remain tabi, the ma'nawi remains tabi and the lafzi remains a fa'il hakiki. They're both the same in the fact that you can place them in front or behind. فَتَجْوِيزُ التَّقْدِيمِ الْمَعْنَوِي دُونَ اللَّفْزِ تَحَكُّمٌ. The fact that a Sakaki placed conditions for one and the other. تَجْوِيزُ التَّقْدِيمِ الْمَعْنَوِي. The fact that he allows the ma'nawi to go muqaddam. Ma'nawi meaning, remember he said it has to be fa'il ma'nawi. Shart number 1. وَقُدِّرَ. The fact that he allowed that one دون اللفظي but not the lafzi is تحكم. The meaning of تحكم here would mean what? ترجيح بلا مرجح. Preferring opinion over another without any real reason. Otherwise, there's no prohibition for a person to say, for instance, Zaydun qama. Even originally it was qama Zaydun. Then Zaydun was placed first and he was made mubtada. Yes, there's no prohibition in that. You can say Zaydun qama. Zaydun was made mubtada. Originally it was, however, qama Zaydun. A lot of forms would come out of this. For instance, if you said ma Zaydun qa'imun, Sakaki would say this is not permissible. Ma Zaydun qa'imun, because his conditions are not fulfilled. But a Shaykh Abdul Qadir al-Jurjani rahimahullah would say it's permissible. Or for instance, ma ana qumtu, Sakaki would say it's permissible with conditions. But Shaykh Abdul Qadir will say it's permissible mutlaqan. Or Zaydun qama, Sakaki would say Zaydun qama does not give fa'idah to takhsis, and Shaykh Abdul Qadir al-Jurjani rahimahullah will say qad yufid al-takhsis, it sometimes gives takhsis. These are examples of the tafri' on those rules. So from ثُمَّ لَا نُسَلِّمُ, from there to at كَمَا ذُكِرَ, place brackets between those two. ثُمَّ لَا نُسَلِّمُ, then we do not accept intifa' al-takhsis. So this is continuing with the refutation of Sakaki. We do not accept the negation of takhsis لولا تقدير التقديم, if you cannot presuppose the fact that it can be placed in the beginning. Now, example of that in شر أهر ذا ناب, what they state, example of that would be لحصوله بغيره كما ذكر, is شر أهر ذا ناب. The fact that شر أهر ذا ناب has been placed before, Nakirah, that didn't fulfill, that you cannot do taqdeem of it, meaning it doesn't fulfill Shakaki's sharait, but it's found like this. He states لا نسلم, we do not accept this point. لحصوله بغيره, how is it attained by something else? How is taqdeem in a nakira attained by something else? Through tahweel, meaning the fact that sharrun was placed first because of to show the frightening state of shar. Taqdeem of Nakirah Musnad Ilaiyhi was fulfilled without the sharaita of Sakaki. So that's why he states, لا نسلم انتفاء التخصيص لولا تقدير التقديم. We do not accept the negation of تخصيص if لولا تقدير التقديم, if we cannot presuppose the تقديم shart, meaning the shart that he placed, which was the second shart, which is قدر. لحصوله, because this is attained, meaning تخصيص of the nakira is attained بغيره, with other things like in the example that we done, which was through tahwil kama dhukira. Is that clear? Then make a bracket from ثم لا نسلم up to لا خير. ثم لا نسلم. Then we do not also accept امتناع, the prohibition, أن يراد المهر شر لا خير. Sakaki said you can't intend the meaning al-muhir sharrun la khairun. Why did he say that? Because he said sharrun is the only thing that makes an animal growl as opposed to khair. He's saying we don't accept this. Why? The reason for this is to show that the thing that made the animal growl in the first place was from jinsu shar, not from khair. This was the point, that the thing that made the animal growl. So for instance, then it's similar to saying rajulun ja'ani. When you say rajulun ja'ani, you're trying to show that a woman never came, a man came. So he's saying this is why we don't accept this point of Sakaki, where he said an yurada al muhirru sharrun la khairun. Is that clear? Is that clear, everyone? Yeah. Then from thumma qala up to fil bina'i. ثم قال. This is going back to who? Sakaki. So now Sakaki, rahimahullah, is mentioning something else. This is a different point. وَيَقْرُبُ قَرُبَ يَقْرُبُ, to be close to. Min huwa qama. When you say huwa qama, he stood. This, he states, is similar in its strength to Zaydun qa'imun. Huwa qama is similar to Zaydun qa'imun. Why? في التقوي, when he states في التقوي لتضمنه الضمير, because the word qa'imun contains a dhamir, which is huwa. وشبه, now وشبه بالخال عنه من جهة عدم التغير في التكلم والخطاب والغيبة. This is something to understand. If you said huwa qama, but then with Zaydun qa'imun, you say Zaydun qa'imun, and then also you say Anta qa'imun, huwa qa'imun, Anta qa'imun, huwa qa'imun, ana qa'imun. See, this word qa'imun is similar to a noun which does not have any dhamir in the first place. So in that case, it's similar to Zayd, it's similar to huwa qama. وَشِبْهُ بِالْخَالِ, meaning it's similar to qa'im is similar, which contains a dhamir, is similar to something which has no dhamir. Why is this? مِنْ جِهَةِ عَدْمِ تَغَيُّرِ فِي التَّكَلُّمِ, the fact that it doesn't change when you speak. You can say أَنَا قَائِمٌ, أَنْتَ قَائِمٌ, هُوَ قَائِمٌ. So he states عدم تغير في التكلم, تكلم meaning أنا ضمير, والخطاب meaning أنت ضمير, والغيبة meaning third person ضمير pronoun. ولهذا, based upon this, meaning the fact that it's similar to a noun which has no ضمير, لم يحكم بأنه جملة, it won't be given the ruling that it's a whole sentence in itself. So زيد قائم, qa'imun would not be given the hukam of being given the hukam of a sentence, shibul jumla. ولا عُومِلَ معاملتها في البناء, it's not dealt with. ولا عُومِلَ, عُومِلَ the huwa dhamir naib file is what? قائم. هو ضمير goes back to قائم. معاملتها, the ha ضمير goes back to jumla, meaning it's not dealt with like a jumla. What's not dealt with like a jumla? قائم is not dealt with. Fil bina, in its construction. Fil bina means how you make it musnad or musnad ilayhi. It's not dealt with like a jumla. It's dealt like a word which has no damir in the first place. Why? Even though qa'imun does have a damir, but the fact that it can be changed to ana, with ana being placed in front of it, or anta being placed in front of it, or huwa. So it's similar to zaydun qa'imun, huwa qa'ama as well, and zaydun qa'imun are similar. So zaydun qa'imun is similar to huwa qama. Why huwa qama? Because huwa qama, you could say ana qumtu, and then huwa qama, the huwa you make mubtada, and then qama you make khabar. But the qama is not dealt with like a jumla as well. It's not dealt with like a jumla. So from there now, we have another discussion from وَمِمَّا يُرَى up to بِهِمَا. وَمِمَّا يُرَى تَقْدِيمُهُ كَاللَّازِمِ, that thing which is seen as being essentially necessarily placed first. تَقْدِيمُ كَاللَّازِمِ, something which is seen necessarily to be placed first, is the word لفظ مثل and غير. Meaning, if you wanted to give takhsis, you would have to place these words first. Now the qiyas, someone, if they don't qiyas, they would say it should be permissible to say mithlu after or ghayru after. But what he's saying here is isti'mal in usage. They have only been used by being placed first. So he states, في نحو مثلك لا يبخل. Someone like you does not be stingy. مثلك لا يبخل. وغيرك لا يجود. And other than you is not generous. Meaning, بمعنى أنت لا تبخل, you do not be stingy, وأنت تجود, you are generous, من غير إرادة تعريض لغير المخاطب, without intending تعريض لغير المخاطب. غير مخاطب, a third person, the one, other than the one being addressed. What he means by تعريض is when you, what they mean by تعريض, إن يذكر شيئا يدل به على شيء لم يذكره, that he mentions something which is indicative of something which he didn't mention. Like a needy person coming and saying, جئتك لأسلم عليك, I only came to give you salam. But if he's a beggar and comes and says, I only came to give salam, he's indicating that give me money. This is called ta'arid. Ta'arid, yeah. So in this case, when you say أنت لا تبخل وأنت تجود, you're making this very specific. من غير إرادة تعريض لغير المخاطب, without doing تعريض for other than one being addressed. لكونه أعون على المراد بهما, because this is more helpful على المراد بهما, upon the intended meaning. بهما meaning with, مثل and غيره meaning أعون meaning it's more helpful. By تقديم is more helpful. When you place it, it makes the meaning more forceful. Is that clear now? Now the next bracket, place it between قيل up to ترجيح التأكيد على التأسيس on the next page. قيل, it has been said. Said by who? Ibn Malik and others. Muhammad bin Malik, rahimahullah, and a whole group of others. وَقَدْ يُقَدَّمُ, sometimes the Musnad Ilaiyhi is placed ahead at the beginning. لِأَنَّهُ دَالٌ عَلَى الْعُمُومِ, because it indicates upon a general meaning, meaning an inclusive meaning. So the Musnad Ilaiyhi is like, kullu insanin lam yaqum. Every human did not stand, meaning every single afrad, every single fard, every single individual did not stand. So, this is in opposition بِخِلَافِ مَا لَأُخِرْ. If it was delayed in any way or form, then it doesn't give the meaning of umum. It doesn't give meaning of what? Umum. نَحْوُ لَمْ يَقُلْ كُلُّ إِنسَانٍ. If you say, did not stand every human, here this does not give meaning of umum, according to Ibn Malik and others. فَإِنَّهُ يُفِيدُ نَفْيَ الْحُكْمِ عَنْ جُمْلَةِ الْأَفْرَادِ. It gives the benefit of negating the ruling on جُمْلَةِ الْأَفْرَادِ, meaning the group, جُمْلَةِ الْأَفْرَادِ. As a group, the individuals are negated, not as individuals. لَا عَنْ كُلِّ فَرْدٍ, not from every individual. Why is this done? Meaning, the fact that when he says وَذَلِكَ, he's referring to كون التقديم مفيدا للعموم دون التأخير. The fact that placing it first gives benefit of umum, and placing it at the end doesn't give benefit of umum. لِأَلَّا يَلْزَمَ, that what doesn't become essential by doing this? ترجيح التأكيد على التأسيس. Now, before going to this, the definition of ta'keed. What is the definition of ta'keed? التأكيد إفادة ما قد حصل دون دخول معنى جديد على الجملة. Which means, ta'keed is giving the benefit of something which is attained without a new meaning in the sentence. Like for instance, if I say, جاء التلاميذ كلهم, the students came. كلهم is ta'keed. Yeah? It's not giving you a new benefit, but it's emphasized the previous meaning. And what would the meaning of ta'sis mean? Is when you give an additional, you'd say دخول معنى جديد على الجملة, the entering of a new meaning upon the jumla. Yes? So the fact that Taqdeem-ul-Musnad gives the meaning of umum, but Ta'khir-ul-Musnad does not give meaning of umum. This is done وَذَلِكَ لِأَلَّا يَلْزَمَ تَرْجِيحُ التَّأْكِيدِ عَلى التَّأْسِيسِ. That you do not prefer ta'keed over ta'sis. How would ta'keed be preferred over ta'sis? If you say كُلُّ إِنسَانٍ لَمْ يَقُمْ, this would be what? Ta'keed. But if you say this would be what? Sorry, ta'sis, because you're giving a new meaning. Kullu insan lam yaqum. Every human did not stand. But if you say the second one, which is lam yaqum kullu insanin, this would be what? That one would be ta'sis, and the first one would be what? Ta'keed.
Ta'keed are known stood, but here in a group known stood, others not this time. So this ta'sis, two meanings are found.
Okay. From the next part, from لأن الموجبة المهملة المعدولة المحمولي. From there up to in the third line, في سياق النفي. An example of الموجبة المهملة المعدولة المحمولي. إنسان لم يقم. Is what? إنسان لم يقم. How is this mujiba? It's mujiba because you've made essential عدم القيام. That's why it's called mujiba. Why is it called muhmala? It's called muhmala because you've done admul bayan. You've not placed a sur, a limitation. Yeah. Admu bayani kamiyat al-afrad, which you'd say the number of people is not explained. Why is it called al-Ma'dulatul Mahmuli? Because the harfu salb, which is lam, has been made a juz of the mahmul. Lam yaqum. Is that clear now? So this sentence, لأن الموجبة المهملة المعدولة المحمول في. Is that clear what that means? Yeah. This statement, إنسان لم يقم, is in the strength في قوة السالبة الجزئية المستلزمة نفي الحكم عن الجملة. Which one is السالبة الجزئية لم يقم بعض الإنسان. If you say لم يقم بعض الإنسان, this is saliba because you've negated the hukm of qiyam. But it's juz'iyya because بعض الإنسان. So he's saying إنسان لم يقم. And now this would also make clear what we said in ترجيح التأكيد على التأسيس. You know when we say كل إنسان, that is inclusive of jumlatul afrad. And when we say لم يقم كل إنسان, or we say كل إنسان لم يقم, when we said إنسان لم يقم, إنسان لم يقم, see how the meaning changes if you say كل إنسان لم يقم. The meaning does change because by placing the sur, you've changed the meaning. From this point, inshallah, we'll carry on next week. Drushik, Jazallahu anna.
Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.